What does the data mean? The primary form of data output for standardized assessments are standardized scores. We are looking here at a representation of a normal distribution. For any given standardized score, a position within this distribution may be found. A standardized score of 100 would give a position in the distribution where the student would have scored as high or higher than 50% of the population, with the rest of the population scoring higher than this. The NPR value gives the percentage of the distribution that an individual score is as high or higher than. Here, the student scores are listed in rank order within the group report for teachers. You can see the standardized scores both as a simple number and pictorially. In the pictorial representation, confidence bands are shown as the horizontal line with end pieces drawn around a dot representing the standardized score. The confidence band reflects the degree of uncertainty or tolerance in the scores that comes about through the standard error of measurement. Highlighted is a student where the scores in the individual STAY9 scores for passage comprehension and sentence completion differ by 3 STAY9s or more. Where this degree of difference occurs, scores are shown against a dark blue background. Large differences in these scores should be used indicatively rather than definitively. We would recommend follow-up with a one-to-one diagnostic reading assessment. We are giving separate scores in these areas to reflect the modern view of reading that recognizes that normal reading comprises both the components of decoding and comprehension of the material. The sentence completion and passage comprehension sections each have a different focus on reading skills owing to their different question types and content. Turning now to the individual student report for teachers. This report contains a question-by-question track for both the sentence completion and passage comprehension sections of the assessment. The assessment begins by asking questions based around the average performance level of similarly aged students. After examining responses from the first 3 questions, the software varies the difficulty of the questions to gain the best measure of their reading performance level. The performance level determined is used to choose the best passages to assess passage reading skills. A very important element of this report for teaching and learning implications is the narrative section below the initial table of the individual scores, shown towards the top of the page. The table at the bottom of this report shows the student's comprehension reading performance broken down into categories. The number of questions of each category is shown in the percentage that the individual got correct. In this example, there were no examples of questions from the categories writer's purposes and viewpoints, organization of text, and social, cultural, and historical traditions. These higher-level skills are more frequently found in the higher performance levels of the passages. These areas are very useful in targeting interventions for an individual. After the initial sentence completion section of the assessment, if the software determines the individual's reading age to be at or below 6 years and 6 months, passages are not presented and instead a section on phonological awareness is completed. This phonological awareness section focuses on pre-passage reading skills. For each of the reading development areas, the number of questions both asked and answered correctly is shown. The Group Progress Report for Teachers has a similar format to the Group Report for Teachers with a couple of major differences. The table has as its focus changes in standardized scores from one administration of the assessment to the next. This could be from one year to another or over a shorter period, such as a term, following an intervention program perhaps. The change in the standardized score and progress category is given based on that change in standardized score. The progress category is referenced to the change in standardized scores that the sample population make and the number of standardized score points difference will vary for different initial and final standardized scores. This change in standardized scores can also be visualized in a scatter graph. The white area represents the average change of standardized scores made by the national sample. Those making more progress than the average group are plotted in the green area, and those making less progress in the orange area. Note that starting with a very low first administration standardized score will require a larger change in standardized score to move into the above average progress than starting with a high standardized score. The demographic progress reports are very useful reports. Shown here is data on the progress of students within the English as an additional language demographic. This data could be for year-on-year tracking or pre- and post-intervention. It would be very useful in supporting evidence regarding the efficacy of any intervention that had been put in place for a particular special interest group.